Tom, is Tim Walz a moderate like Democrats say, or a far left progressive like Republicans say? Did he let BLM burn down his state's largest city? Did he lock down his state during COVID, hurting children's education? Did he encourage neighbors to snitch on each other during COVID? Or is he an experienced governor, teacher, and coach who's likable and steady in the storm? I got two different stories from MSNBC and Fox News last night, so we decided to
Right.
ask someone who lives in Minnesota and
Yeah.
tells it like it is.
It's very interesting because yeah, it depends on who you watch. Who is this guy? What is his background? And I've got a brother in Minnesota, so I kind of have an idea of what Tim Walz is like. And we also have a sister in Minnesota. Her name is Roshini Rajkumar, and she's a political strategist. She's host of the Crisis Files podcast, and of course, she is a Minnesotan. So, Roshini, first of all, welcome back to the program. And then I want to ask you this because a week ago, Tim Walz was addressing some Kamala Harris supporters by touting the benefits of socialism. And now he's being called by many Democratic pundits, he's a moderate Democrat. It was a moderate choice. They didn't pick someone who was progressive. That doesn't seem like it fits the Tim Walz I've known of for the past several years. What do you think?
Well, and I would agree. He is not a moderate. I have been watching both as a talk show host in the Minneapolis market as well as a political analyst. And look, he's a really good messenger. I will definitely say that. And you both know I am definitely right down the middle. I would call myself an independent. So I'm giving you analysis from that perspective. But I'm also, up until last October, was a city resident of Minneapolis. So I will share some of those personal things in a bit. But what I can tell you, watching him from my talk show host role and talking about him on the air during his first election to governor, as well as his reelection, he is not a moderate. I mean, it just isn't the case. If you were to pull up headlines from the previous months or years before about 4 weeks ago, you're going to see some of that play out from reputable news sources who were just covering him as the governor, covering him with what he did. Now, there are also people in Minneapolis who live in Minneapolis and maybe observing from the rest of Minnesota who would tell you that Tim Walz did not call in the National Guard and we watched our city burn down. So I'm going to share, there's a little personal bias here because I think that burning down of the third precinct could have been prevented, and he's directly connected to that. Now, do I agree with every headline I'm seeing on Fox or on MSNBC or CNN? No, and this is why it's important for reporters, not us, we're more like talk show hosts sharing opinions, but those reporters out there, the actual journalists, need to dig up all the facts. And look, I'm excited for my state of Minnesota. There haven't been, if you look on X right now, Minnesota is trending. That doesn't happen every day. So these are the kinds of things that are good. They're good for our economy. The Minnesota State Fair is going to be a blockbuster for everyone who goes. But we have to really think about it. It's not just what you do on stage. It's not just what you say and put out a word that becomes a meme that lives on forever. It's what are you going to do in office? And let's also remind people, Tim Walz isn't running for president. He was selected to be vice president. The voters are voting for a presidential candidate, and on the Democratic side, that's Kamala Harris.
Yeah, so and Kamala Harris, I followed when I was reporting out in California when she was out there. Her political career was pretty much birthed and grown out in California, and it was known she's very much what you would call a democratic socialist, much like an AOC or a Cori Bush who just lost her election yesterday in the primary. But that's what they were proud of, and they touted these things. And Tim Walz has a similar history. So would it be fair to count this ticket as one of the more far left, whether that's a criticism or not? It doesn't have to be a pejorative. It's just a descriptor, far left ticket that we've seen in recent memory.
Yes, in fact, some are calling it the most left ticket we've seen in the history of our country. Now, I don't know how anyone can quite go back 200 some years, but it is very far left when we think about all of our lifetimes, most of your listeners' lifetimes. That's definitely the case. And I'll also tell you, I watched every minute of yesterday, the rally at Temple University, and Josh Shapiro showed himself to be a formidable future contender. It's actually a little surprising she did not select him when you just think about it from a strategist mindset. But we saw him sort of foam up everybody there. then Kamala Harris comes out, and she was very scripted. She had some good liners. She also went kind of on and on talking about Tim Walz's record as governor or his past in Congress. So I wanted to hear more about her plans for the future and how Tim Walz fits into it. I don't know that I necessarily wanted to hear a rehashing through her words on that script. But I will tell you, she had one winning line in my mind. She said, we need to level set. We are the underdogs in the race. I thought that was a really interesting line and sort of that shaping of the visual that she wants. Then Tim Walz got up there and he started kind of, soft, friendly guy next door. But if you really watch the trajectory of his remarks, and it's why he's getting kudos today, he went a little pit bull as we went forward in those remarks. And I'm guessing you guys saw some of those same things.
I watch Roshini. I'm a Republican, but I call them like I see them. And I watched him last night, and I could tell he was a football coach because he was motivating. And I think people who don't listen to all the noise and don't listen to the talking heads are just going to decide for themselves if they like someone or not. I think they're going to like Tim Walz, and I think they might like him better than Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and DJ Vance combined. That's how much I think he can motivate people and is comfortable up there and talks like an everyday person, which independents may like. Do you think he could have a bigger impact than some VP choices in the past?
He could, only because I think right now there's been so much drama that Americans just kind of want calm. They want calm, or maybe even they want milk toast. And when you think of all the contenders that were out there, and I don't mean this in a negative way, Tim Walz was probably the milkiest milk toast that Kamala Harris could choose. But he showed himself on the podium last night that he knows how to message. He was actually a better deliverer of content than the vice president was. And you see, that's what we have seen for the last several years from Tim Walz. But what I'm going to tell you, and again, this is not a slam on him, it's from my analyst and very discerning perspective that you guys count on me for. He is very good at giving the message he wants to give. That is why it's very important for journalists to fact check. I want to see some fact check stories out there.
Yes.
So this is Donald Trump's chance to reset. Does he call Tim Walz names? Does he just call him a lunatic leftist? Or does he come out and talk about the policies and why Trump presidency is better?
Yep.
I'm really glad you asked me that. The best thing Tim Walz and J.D. Vance could do right now is talk policies, because they have ideas. We've heard them. Talk about how they're going to make things safer.
Apologize, Roshini. We got to leave it there.
That's okay. Thanks, guys.
So much. Appreciate your analysis. Thanks so much. More to come. 760 WJR.